back. Now, you guys probably think, oh, today must be the tune day, we're gonna go get the car tuned. No, unfortunately not. So it's been a few weeks since we had our little chat about the Supra and me driving it and it going horribly wrong, and a little chat about the next project, which you can find there. So it's been a few weeks since then, and a couple days ago, actually, I guess it was day before yesterday, yeah, so a couple days ago, Peter and I were in the garage and we were like, hey, let's start up the car and just kind of see what's going on. And we started it up, and it was running kind of weird as usual, and you know, we're like, okay, whatever. But then it started getting kind of smoky, and not from the exhaust like it was dumping fuel, but from the turbo, like the turbo was getting too hot or something. This was just at idle. It was smoking like a lot more than it should. And so we turned the car off and we popped the intake off, and you know what? Let me just show you. Alright, so here's the turbo, and it looks fine now, but basically the turbine wheel had frozen and we couldn't get it to move, like no matter how much. Now it's fine now. Once it had kind of cooled down, I kind of pushed it a little harder and it broke free. But basically what I think is the richness, which we still haven't diagnosed, caused fuel to go into that pipe, which then melted the paint, put it inside of the turbo, and then the turbo got kind of gunked up with that paint and it kind of froze the shaft. Basically, what I'm going to do now is remove the compressor cover and like clean it out, especially if there's paint. I don't really know how much went in there. It didn't look like much. But again, I'm going to pull the compressor cover off and maybe the intercooler pipe as well and just see if, you know, I have to clean that stuff out. And then we also have to figure out why the car is running super rich. So we got a long list of things to do. There's about a week and a half till the tune day, so we got to figure this stuff out now. Otherwise, we're kind of screwed. So let's get started. All right, well, I don't see anything on it, so it looks fine. It spins freely. I mean, it's got like a very normal amount of shaft movement. At this point, there was nothing that pointed to why the turbo decided to freeze up. Okay, next thing to worry about, I guess, is fuel. And there's a few things it could be. Now, the E85 that's in the tank of this car is like at least 4 months old, 5 months old now. I had filled it with 93 in the middle because I thought maybe it was just a cold start issue. It wasn't. That means that this E85's, you know, been in here for a long time. Even if it is mixed with 93, it probably absorbed a lot of water because E85, it's hygrophilic or hygroscopic or whatever it's called for the G, and that means it absorbs water. And so there's a good chance that the fuel is just trash and it's not combusting properly, and that's the reason that the car is running so rich, and that's why it's pouring so much fuel into the valve covers. Actually, if you pull the cap off, literally it just smells like fuel. Like the oil, it's not even oil anymore, it's just fuel. So I'm gonna have to drain the oil, and literally it's like gas. And so I'm gonna have to drain the oil and put new oil in, and then we're also gonna drain the tank. So we'll probably do that first. We'll go under the car, pop one of the fuel lines off, and then put a pan underneath, I guess, and prime the pump, or maybe even just turn it on in the AEM software, which should be doable. And then we'll drain the full, like every single last drop out of the tank, and then we'll put in like 2 or 3 gallons of like fresh 93. And then we'll kind of like cycle that through as well. So hopefully we'll have fresh fuel in. I need to change the O2 sensor. I forgot to do that as well. And then we'll kind of like go through and start eliminating things it could be. There's also a possibility that because of how much water was in the injectors themselves, one of them or multiple injectors are stuck because of like water getting in and like rusting it or whatever, or like corroding it, causing issues. So that's also a possibility. I'm not totally sure about that, so we'll have to see. Draining the tank was pretty straightforward. I just pulled off one of the fuel lines and then hot-wired the fuel pump relay to stay on. So instead of using the computer to just turn on the pumps, I decided to hotwire the pumps. You know, just kind of switching the relay myself. And, well, I turned the wrong one on. So instead of going into the pan, it just went everywhere else. Truth be told, I'm not really sure what it's supposed to look like. It's clear and like a little bit blue. I know petrol, when it goes bad, it goes green, but ethanol, I'm not sure. It does smell a little strange, like not as corny as it usually does. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that, yeah, this has gone bad. This should be the last pan. We've, well, 1, 2, 3 of these, plus all the stuff on the floor. So there's actually a fair bit of fuel still left in the tank. The gauge indicated, I think, half a tank. Alright, so made a big mess, and I didn't totally get all of the fuel out, but I got enough out. There's probably maybe a couple gallons left. I need shop towels and I need oil. So we're gonna go get that stuff, and hopefully this will dry up a little by the time we get back. Okay, so now that we got all the old fuel out and the new fuel in, let's put the turbo back together, I guess, and then we'll change the O2 sensor, so that needs to be changed. And then get on the computer. I think there's a firmware update for the Infinity, so we'll test the fuel pressure, make sure everything looks fine, and then, yeah, and then we'll see if it starts. That's the worst thing. One thing I didn't mention was that I also was planning on doing a compression test. Now, it was really unlikely that there was something wrong with the motor, but I wanted to be sure. A compression test involves plugging a compression gauge into each cylinder, cranking the motor, and seeing how much pressure it builds. You want to see consistent numbers with less than 10% variance between cylinders. So, I'm going to go ahead and start the car just to show you guys what's happening. Also to warm it up a little for the compression test. So yeah, the motor's a little warm now, so we'll go ahead and start pulling the plugs out and then doing the compression test. Okay, so the results were 168, 168, 178, 168, 168, 168. So, well within tolerances. The extra compression in one cylinder could be due to a variety of factors, but it's well within the margin of error. The fact that the rest were so consistent was good. That one was higher, not lower, so it's fine. The motor is in good shape. So we can cross that off the list. That's not the issue we're seeing here. The next thing to kind of look at is it's possible that the oil seals are gone in this turbo as well. This was a used turbo, so, and it had been sitting for maybe like a year or 2 years or something like that, so it's possible. So I guess what I'll do is I'll drop the downpipe, take a look at the rear housing, and like just see from there. I don't know what to say. If it is that the turbo's blown, then that sucks. But I mean, we'll figure it out. The tune date is in 8 days, so we have 8 days. We can figure it out by then, I think, probably. But yeah, so that's where we're at. I'm gonna pop open this catch can and take a look inside. When I pulled the breather tubes that kind of bridge the two valve covers, they were like dripping with fuel. So that's still an issue we're having. There is like fuel just like everywhere, and it's possible that the injector scaling and the ECU is just set up wrong because I set it up wrong, and it's just dumping fuel like crazy, and that's causing the oil to get thinned out and causing like the crankcase to be filled with oil or to filled with fuel, etc., etc. I'm gonna drop the oil as well today, and we'll see from there. So I guess what we'll do is we'll pop the downpipe off first, take a look inside, and then I don't know, just go with whatever information we get there, and then I guess I'll change the oil and see what we get from that as well. So yeah, let's get started. Smells like tandoori chicken. Alright, well, new oil's in and I buttoned everything back up, so I guess we can try and start it, and we'll see if the new oil takes care of the problem. It's possible that the oil was so diluted, and it did feel pretty diluted, that the kind of watery oil was getting past the turbo seals, or the oil seals on the turbo. So that's possible. I'm not totally sure, but we'll have to see. So I'll pop it down and we'll start the car up and see if it behaves any differently. Yeah, I think we can safely say that I didn't really fix anything. The issue was something else, somewhere I wasn't looking, so I jumped on the computer and looked through logs to see if I could pinpoint the issue. But before I could find the source of the car's smoking habit, I noticed that the radiator fans weren't kicking on and the car was running hot. No doubt this was due to the mess that was the previous owner's wiring job, so it was once again time to bust out the strippers, wire strippers that is, and redo the entire fan relay setup. Now, I'll save you guys the gory details. It was basically cut everything out and replace everything. But man, as you guys can see, it was a complete mess with old electrical tape glue getting absolutely everywhere. After getting it all wired up, I started the car to let it get up to temp and test the fans. But before the car could even get warm, I noticed another issue. I was waiting for the car to come up to temp to see if the fans would turn on, and then I noticed that the turbine wasn't spinning. Yeah, so I really don't know what could be the cause of the turbine not spinning, but it seems like it's stuck too. Like, I can't even get it to move. Oh yeah, Right there. It's hitting something. Freaking hell, man. I don't know what that means, but it might mean that the turbo is just buggered. So I started pulling the turbo apart, fully expecting there to be chunks of compressor wheel or perhaps a small animal wedged somewhere inside. But there was nothing obstructing the compressor side, and after a little wiggling... Oh! It's free again! Huh. What the hell? What the hell is absolutely right. So I started pulling off the downpipe to look for an obstruction on the exhaust side. But just like with the compressor side, there was nothing to be found. I don't understand this car. Are the bearings actually damaged? Is the center section just dirty? Is the oil overheating and coking the center housing? Are Toyotas actually reliable? Is this just a dream? Is this just a nightmare? Did Richard steal my this car? I just went, should I hit LS swap? Akio Toyota put out a hit on me for making his car seem unreliable? Do people really watch these videos? Or is it just my mom? Should I join the fake? Should I install Mac OS? Am I even a real boy? After a brief psych evaluation, I got back to work and started eliminating possible issues. First was ensuring that the crankcase breathers were totally clean, and that there wasn't too much pressure in the crankcase, which could cause the oil to not properly flow through the turbo. Then, I cleaned out the turbo oil feed and drain lines, as well as sprayed some cleaner through the center section of the turbo. After ensuring there was no possibility for any gunk to be left in the oiling system, I started putting everything back together. After it was all together, I jumped on the computer and changed around the fuel injector settings. Then I started the car up and, like magic, it ran way better and it stopped smoking too. The impedance for the injectors was set incorrectly, and this was causing them to dump fuel, which is why the car was acting so strange. After running the car for a bit and confirming that everything was working, we pulled the catch can out to take a look inside and empty it of any fluid. Alright, so I got basically everything buttoned up. All the intercooler pipes are in, both sides, and I got a nice little intake happening here, one without paint inside of it. And yeah, so next I just need to button up the exhaust, and then I guess just test it out, see how it drives, make sure everything's functioning properly, make sure the fans are coming on. And if everything seems hunky-dory, then off to the tuner day after tomorrow. One thing I forgot to mention was that the alternator plug was totally mangled. Peter said he'd work some magic to try to find me one, but just out of curiosity, I decided to check if the plug on the BRZ would fit the Supra. Lo and behold, the alternator plugs haven't changed in 20 years on these old Denso electronics. But I suppose, as the Japanese say, Sawara no kami ni tatarinashi. Okay, sit round. Basically, this is what happened. Car was running weird, car stopped running weird. Turbo got stuck and was deemed to be dead, was taken apart, nothing found inside, and then center cartridge cleaned thoroughly, and then it started spinning nicer than ever before. So, conclusion, center cartridge had some crap in it? I don't know. Potential bearing damage, I really don't know enough about ball bearings and turbochargers specifically to know whether or not that was indicative of something going horribly wrong, but I guess we'll find out. I put everything back together. I reassembled the entire car, more or less, you know, all the exhaust and the intercooler pipes. I cleaned everything out. A little bit of liquid in the intercooler pipes. I think that might have been just the kind of cleaner I was using, because I was spraying it in and around that area. But good that I cleaned out the intercooler pipes. So everything, more or less, is ready to go. The only thing is that alternator plug, which was in horrible shape. It was destroyed. I have Peter looking for, I think he said he found a connector with a pigtail, so that'd be great if we can get that, and then I can just wire it up and we'd be set, and that'd be perfect. If not, both the FRS and the BRZ actually use the exact same alternator plug, which is hilarious because this car is actually 20 years older. Exactly 20 years older. It's kind of funny. It uses the same. That's just how it is. Alternators use 3 wires. They're all pretty much the same. Assuming we can't get our hands on that OEM pigtail, a new one, then I'm just going to cut it out of the FRS and stick it in. I won't run the car until I get the alternator wired up because I don't want to just run through the battery and kill it. That's about it. I guess if she's running okay or as okay as it could be, you know, with how everything's been going. As long as the turbo's still spinning and the car's not spewing smoke everywhere and stalling out, then I guess that's good to go. I'll clean the car up, you know, pull all the garbage out of it, kind of like this door card's off, and I put that back together, get the windows working and stuff. Just kind of get the car ready for tomorrow's tune day, kind of clean it up, and then hopefully we can get it on a tow truck tomorrow morning and off to Larry, where he will put his magic computer to work and make this thing make some jam. So that's where we're at. I'm hoping it all goes as well as that plan sounds, but as you guys know, I'm always prepared for the worst. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Horsepower estimates? Anybody? If you have horsepower estimates, put them in the comments. Whoever gets closest to the exact number will get some free stuff. How about that, huh? I'll find some garbage around here and I'll send it to you. We'll see. Either that or it'll blow up. Yeah. Next time on the Monster Supra build. No flames though. No flames.